5-Minute Habits for Healthy Living. This week's habit is called Live Within Your Means. Hello, this is Dr. Brian Morris, and welcome to 5-Minute Habits for Healthy Living, where you will learn the tools to practice a healthy lifestyle 5 minutes at a time. Life has become very complicated with a seemingly endless amount of health information at our fingertips. How do you know what to believe and what not to believe? In these podcast episodes, I will sort through the maze of medical information and distill it into easy-to-digest, time-tested, evidence-based, practical strategies for optimal health. I've been practicing internal medicine for 20 years. I went to medical school at Johns Hopkins, I trained at Yale, and I previously held a teaching position at Harvard Medical School. I currently practice medicine and hold a teaching appointment at UCLA Medical School here in Los Angeles, where I teach these tools and these strategies to medical students, house staff, doctors, and of course, to my patients. Before we get to this week's habit, I'd like to remind you that the information contained in this podcast and at 5minutemd.com is intended solely for educational purposes and should not be used to diagnose, treat, or prevent any health condition or illness. This information may not apply to a specific health situation and is not a substitute for medical care by a qualified, licensed, board-certified healthcare professional. Please consult with your healthcare provider before implementing any of the ideas in this podcast or making any changes in your healthcare regimen. This week's habit is called Live Within Your Means. There may not be a habit that we will discuss on this podcast that is more appropriate for modern times than this one. For generations, only buying what one could afford was the way that most people in the Western world lived. Sometime in the 20th century, the credit card mentality began, which effectively expanded the amount of money that we had at our disposal as we could purchase items with money that we didn't even have yet. Buying stuff with credit became commonplace. It used to be that our available finances only included what we had in the bank. I remember as a kid checking my savings account statement frequently. It was so important to me because I couldn't buy the things I wanted to buy until I had saved up enough money. So, for example, if I wanted to buy a new tennis racket, I had to make sure that I had enough money in my savings account. The thought of buying something like that with credit wasn't nearly as commonplace as it is now. Things have changed over the years, and now many of us purchase items with some version of credit, with the idea being that we'll pay the money back later. At first, this seems marvelous. Now we're able to buy that big screen TV that we might not have the money to afford yet. We can suddenly afford that trip to Hawaii or that new car or a new house, as we'll pay back the money over time. Of course, we all know modern history, and we know how this zealous credit expansion led to the economic downturn in 2008. We saw firsthand how this can affect our world economy and how it can affect individual families. It wasn't pretty. I'm always trying to find the positive in every negative event, so I wonder what we might have learned from that. What I learned is how critically important it is to live within our means, both from a financial but also from a health standpoint. But how does living within our means affect our health? In profound ways. Living above and beyond our means creates tremendous stress. Studies are now confirming that high levels of stress related to financial debt contributes to drug and alcohol addiction, sleep disorders, headaches, blood pressure problems, heart attack risks, and many other health-related issues. So in addition to this being a financial matter, this is also a true health concern. We need to be careful with our financial expenditures to safeguard our financial future, but also to safeguard our health. This means that we try to make purchases based on what our budget allows. We try not to exceed our budget, and we try not to purchase too many items with credit. Our financial situation can change over time, so although it may appear that we'll have the resources to pay something back down the road, it's generally best not to overcommit our credit just in case our financial situation should change. We review and update our budgets at least once a year taking into consideration earnings, expenditures, and savings for the future. Keeping a carefully monitored budget is very important for our financial health. And as mentioned, it's also very important for our medical health. What are we to do? My first suggestion is to decide to live within our means. This means, except for rare circumstances, we only make purchases that we can pay back that month. When the time comes to get a new car, we review our finances and we see what we can afford. If our finances allow, we may be able to purchase that new car we've been dreaming about. However, if the financial numbers indicate that we need to buy a used car to keep within our budget, then that's what we do. Our budget is the key thing. Every individual or family should have a budget and strive to keep financial expenditures within that budget each and every month and each and every year. Emergencies can happen, so having a special fund set aside for emergency circumstances is also important. Perhaps 6 to 12 months of emergency savings should be put aside just in case someone loses a job unexpectedly or a substantial financial hit arises. This isn't a personal finance program, obviously, but I'm mentioning this habit as it can have very serious effects on medical health. For the sake of our health and for the sake of the health of our family members, do your best to keep your expenditures within your budget and to avoid buying things on credit. The end result of living this way is that many of us may not be able to purchase things that we truly want. We may have to turn down a new fancy car or a new computer. It may mean that our vacations aren't quite as nice as we would like. It may mean that we move into a slightly smaller house, but ultimately living within our means will do more than balance our budget. It will keep us out of excessive debt and keep our stress level down. It will significantly help us to avoid the stress that can disrupt and destroy our health. It will go a long way to helping us to optimize our health. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let me know what you think of this week's Habit for Healthy Living. Post your comments and your experiences on the 5 Minute MD Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at Brian Morris MD and visit us anytime at 5minutemd.com. Let your friends know about the podcast and make sure that you are subscribed on iTunes. When you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, you will receive new podcast episodes as soon as they are posted. Also, we will be posting bonus podcast episodes at 5minutemd.com, including special podcast episodes not available on iTunes or YouTube. If you're finding the information on this podcast helpful, you may want to check out these episodes as well. And lastly, if you have a few minutes, stop on by iTunes and leave our podcast a review. Thank you so much for listening, and remember to make today count. I will see you at the next 5.